KFUG Community Radio. It is 1 minute into the 11 o'clock hour. Paul Kritz with you, joined live in the studio today by Jessica St. R. Andrews of Redwood Voice Community News. And we spoke last hour to Dan Schmidt, who was the first Harbor Commissioner hopeful, I guess we'll call him, candidate for the election coming up November 5th. The first Harbor Commission candidate we've had of a week's cavalcade of all the Harbor Commissioner candidates. We are joined now live in the studio by our second such candidate, Annie Nehmer of Smith River. How you doing, Annie? Let's hear what's going on with the microphone.
Hi.
Oh my God,
here.
perfect. That's so okay. Good mic technique so far. If I had to choose candidates by mic technique, so Annie Nehmer, who is here in RN, running for Harbor Commissioner. Before off mic, you likened yourself. You called yourself a commercial fisherman by marriage, by love. So married to a commercial fisherman, is that how you have skin in this game here with the Harbor Commission?
Initially, I married a commercial fisherman, and he hooked me in.
Go.
And actually took me on the vessel, and that I fell in love with fishing as well. So I have a bit of experience commercial fishing in a few fisheries as well.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
What was it about commercial fishing that you fell in love with? I mean,
well, being on the water with my husband was probably the first part, but being outside, just the whole outdoor experience, being on the water, the smell, the sounds, the whole process of learning. It's incredible how smart and intelligent fishermen are. There's this perception on the media growing up in the Midwest that fishermen are portrayed not as intelligent, and turns out they're really intelligent. I mean, from the vessel, from fishing, and the detailed techniques in every fishery, they're all very different.
Wow.
From the fishing line and the hooks and the type of poles.
Sure.
And
so what sorts of, what would he go after? I know the big thing here is Dungeness crab, but like what fisheries do you guys participate in?
We participate in Dungeness crab, and at the time his other major fishery was albacore, and he got me into rockfish. Our first date, well, it wasn't our first date, I think it was our fourth date. He took me out rockfish fishing.
Nice.
And I fell in love, and he loved me so much, he went out and found commercial permits so we could fish year-round together. Whenever
I love that.
Wow.
Truly, it is in love. Yeah.
So it was kind of, it was like a romantic career change.
Yes, for sure. And working at Sutter, we'd work 12-hour shifts, and so I had lots of time in between my shifts. We'd cluster them, and then I could go to Westport and visit him and go out on the vessel, or I didn't go out in the rough crab season. I prefer the fair weather, must say. But I could help unload, I could help turn the boat over, help with.
Wow.
So was that your introduction to the Crescent City Harbor and how it's run?
Yes. My real introduction to how it was run was during COVID. As many people know, it was harder to get crew, and so I became full-time crew with my husband, and the kids could be on the boat with us, so it was really convenient, and you really get to see the ins and outs of how the harbor functions when you're there looking at it every day. And I just had all these whys. And they were simple things when we first moved here, and this was before COVID, but the trash cans were taken away for how you could throw your trash away when you parked your car. And you're like, why'd they take our trash cans away? And then the RV park started looking shoddy, and then the roads become in disrepair, and you're just like, well, why? And why are they weed eating nonstop? Why don't they get a real piece of equipment? And
get a mower.
And so my husband, to his dismay, said, why don't you just go to a harbor meeting and ask? And I went to one, and then another, and I kept going. And he said, don't you have your questions asked now? Can you stop going? And I said, no, I kind of like going. I think I'll keep going. And here we are 3 years later.
What was your experience of the Harbor Commission initially?
Initially, I started going during COVID, so it was all through Zoom.
Okay.
And as with, I think, so many meetings, we know when you're on Zoom, there's a lack of accountability. There's this You don't get the personal relationship.
You don't get the vibe in the room either.
Yeah.
You don't get the tone. It's almost like if I'm speaking to the commissioner, they can hear me, but they don't have to take action because they don't see me or feel that vibe. And then we started meeting in person, and it felt like there was some movement. There were a lot of things happening differently around the harbor, so I just started going for the whys. Thank you, husband. Also, at the same time, Linda Sutter started going to represent the RV parks and the troubles that the residents were going through. And also Roger Gitlin started going to represent Fashion Blacksmith and all of the troubles that they were having dealing with the harbor. So there were these three people coming into the harbor trying to become advocates for different branches of the community or and members of the community, and really putting pressure on the harbor to make changes. At the time, our harbor master stonewalled and prevented a lot of public access, which made things challenging.
Sure.
We've recently had a change in harbor master, and in my opinion, the vibe among the whole harbor has changed. You
Really?
can hear people talking about it, members of the Harbor Commission getting along better, the access that the public has to records and just to the harbor staff is way better.
And just like the
Just a couple of
2,
weeks,
3
right?
weeks since
Really?
Yeah, night and day. It's
Wow.
incredible.
Huh.
I'm very hopeful. Prior to running, I was a little hesitant because dealing with the previous harbor master was just really the stonewall and
difficult, yeah.
And considering becoming a harbor commissioner, you question whether your voice is going to matter, and that's really where I was at. I still ran because as a member of the public, I could say many things, but I didn't really have a vote. I didn't have an actual say in what happened behind the scenes. And so I thought, let me go from asking and speaking on this side of the audience to actually having a vote for what matters for our future.
Do you felt like you're trying to reach the harbor commissioners when you speak during the meetings? Do you feel like you were heard?
Definitely not in the beginning. I think with anyone, you have to earn respect and trust.
Sure.
So I had to go there and prove that I knew what I was talking about,
Sure.
just as any other member does. If you just speak, it's a who are you to our tiny little community.
Right.
And so over the years, I think I've definitely built that rapport with the harbor commissioners as well as the staff there. And I hope with that, I can move forward, having gained a lot of knowledge going to all the meetings, that I can make a difference going forward.
You've said you've asked a lot of whys. What sort of answers have you gotten? Is there? Can you characterize those answers? Is there something that needs overarchingly meta sort of to be addressed after getting the answers that you did?
A lot of the answers came down to money. I think it was a blanket cover for why some things weren't done. So simply the trash cans was a money issue. People keep throwing their trash in. We can't afford the trash.
Okay.
That seems like a really simple thing.
Right. It
Yeah.
seems like a simple thing, but it became a really big problem. We've seen it countywide where people are dumping trash. Well,
Right.
they are also using the garbage cans to dump their trash.
Yeah, no,
in,
that
right?
makes
so
sense,
they thought
yeah.
removing them. So the harbor did beef up their security, which has definitely made a difference in the last couple of years. We've seen a lot less homeless, inebriated individuals hanging around on the benches and screaming down the sidewalks, and they're definitely ushered along instead of preventing people from enjoying the harbor.
Right.
So that's definitely been an improvement in the last couple of years, as security has really made a difference. Let's see, the RV parks, they're a work in progress. Again, I think that was a big Stonewall issue. The community may or may not have heard of the Alex Lemus and went through litigation. Currently, the new harbor master already has new developers online. They're hoping to come up with a decision or something within the next couple weeks.
Wow.
So, yeah, no, he is really proactive. It's incredible.
And help me, how do you say his last name?
Rodemaker.
Rodemaker. Okay, but he's only like for 6 months. I imagine you would like to extend that, right?
Well, I would say let his actions speak for himself.
Sure.
When the previous harbor master applied for the job, he was the only one that applied. So there was no contingent. And so it may be to our current harbor master's benefit that no one else applies. But if someone does, I would say let his record speak for himself.
Okay.
He's also got Mike Rodemaker's been deputy harbor master, and he's been working for the harbor for quite a while. I think before the previous harbor master was hired, if I'm not mistaken. So
A lot of institutional memory there.
Institutional knowledge, yeah. As someone who's been going to harbor meetings for 3 years, what are some of the things that you have seen change maybe for the better, and what are some of the things you would like to see change?
During the harbor meetings, things that have gone, what I like about our harbor meeting is that everyone is addressed individually, like they do bring a personal, the harbor masters bring a personal feel to the room. So if you ask a question, rather than, I've seen a couple of the city meetings in county where you have your 3 minutes, you talk, they don't respond.
Yeah.
And they have the option to respond, and they often do try to answer your questions when you ask them. So I really appreciate that personal feel rather than this very government formal feel. Things that can be improved, again, I'm working with the current harbor master, is some of the transparency is still lacking. It's been a big discussion, but there are actual guidelines for what should be on the website, and there's a local government transparency act.
Oh, wow.
So we have looked it up. He's already in progress in trying to implement some of that, present those documents on the website as they're required by a policy that's in place.
I don't want to do that. Is the dysfunction? I mean, the dysfunction of the harbor, the perception of the dysfunction of the harbor out in the Harbor Commission, out in the community, by which I mean in my head, is that basically just the? Is it wrong to hang that on Tim? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Because it's long-standing.
It's long. Okay. It was there when he came in. It wasn't something that it was just a matter of him being the harbor master then.
Correct.
Okay. All right, good.
In my opinion, he was harbor master, assistant harbor master under a previous harbor master. The dysfunction began there. That's when the dredging permit fell by the wayside.
Yeah.
And harbor commissioners, again, should be the checks and balances. So we have some... Is it that members of the community want to do the right thing and they applied for the position without knowledge? It's a complicated facility. I imagine like the city or the county are.
Right.
And without, I don't know the history and why they applied to run, but there's a great understanding with trying to run for harbor commissioner, which is why I'm thankful I wasn't elected 2 years ago. I did run 2 years ago. Commissioner Rick Shepard and Gerhard Weber were reelected. I'm thankful they were, and I wasn't at the time because they had more experience behind the board, and I needed to gain more knowledge of the other workings of the harbor. I'm from a fishing standpoint, but I didn't have enough knowledge of the RV parks or really of the dredging. I haven't spent a lot of time in the tourism. I kind of feel like Crescent City draws tourists in,
Sure.
and it feeds everything that's in the harbor. I could probably use some improvements in that area.
So as a commercial fisherman, how well do you feel that the harbor commissioners represent your interests as a commercial fisherman? What are some things that maybe they've done well, and what are some things that they could improve upon?
The current Harbor Commission, in my opinion, is very torn or split. And so I think it's kind of been a stalemate. You have some that are very pro-commercial fishing and a couple that are anti-commercial fishing.
Sure.
And maybe it goes along with California state policy. There's a lot of policies and CDFW regulations that make commercial fishing very challenging in the state. Most of the candidates that are currently on the ballot will be replacing anti-fishing harbor commissioners. So I'm hopeful in that regard that we can maybe make the harbor more centered on commercial fishing. Our previous harbor master, in one of his plans, did say that commercial fishing is unsustainable at our harbor to provide enough revenue to continue running the harbor, and so that we needed to gear our revenue on tourism. And I disagree. I think there was so little focus on how to encourage fishing in our harbor that it went by the wayside.
Wow. Okay. All right. So how does that? How do you? We were talking about this with Dan too, and it seems like there's always kind of this tension between, is this a working harbor? Is this kind of a post-resource economy harbor? And we're working toward tourism and being a destination and things like that. But you maintain it is still very much a working harbor.
It is very much a working harbor. Well, first half the year, how do you have recreational vessels?
Yeah, right.
Or anyone
exactly. recreating
here.
Yeah.
Unless you like wearing a rain suit, you're not coming. So it doesn't help commercial fishing today, but I would like to bring the focus of children into our harbor. If you walk down there, you see very few kids fishing.
Sure.
And currently there's an ordinance that doesn't allow kids or anyone fishing on the docks except for the administration dock. I would like to change that so that you can come down and herring fish or surf perch or
With an adult.
ring. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to have an adult, I think, until you're 16. That's when you can have a recreational fishing license.
Oh, cool.
I mean,
okay.
Oh, so you have to be supervised for that anyway. So what else? What else can the harbor do? Can the community do to support the local fishery?
So I've messaged a couple people. I'm looking into maybe hopefully having salmon net pens within the harbor. If not, maybe alternatively white sea bass pens. I know it's been looked into the past. I didn't do it. So
And what would that accomplish? What would that do?
And so you bring in net pens within the harbor, so it creates a terminal fishery. Salmon kind of locate to where they came from.
Okay.
So if they come from the harbor, they should return to the harbor, and you have a derby where kids and
neat.
adults could come in and fish, and then also provide food for your family.
Wow.
So kind of like the coho salmon and stuff that swim up Elk Creek could be part of that.
Yeah, they currently have one
tell them.
in Half Moon Bay. So I've reached out to the people down in Half Moon Bay to try to figure out if it's possible to have something like that here. So we'll see.
What about for working fishermen such as your husband? Are there things that could change at the harbor that might facilitate? I mean, you're talking about getting kids and getting people involved with the harbor, but what about you got a big boat?
We have a big boat. Yeah.
So what do you?
It relies currently on Dungeness crab and tuna. That's the other large fishery here. Many people don't realize right now the shrimp fleet is off the coast. Unfortunately, California regulations prevent them from unloading in California. So they unload in Washington and Oregon.
Can you? I don't want to get too far into the seaweeds, but why is that? Why can't they unload in California?
A lot of it has to do with regulations on the plants. Many may remember the Albert seafood, and they got shut down because the chlorine in the city water was too high to put back into the bay. So water you can drink can't go back in the ocean.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So then they were going to have to pay sewer charges for the water, and they couldn't afford those. So that plant closed just because they couldn't pay the water bill.
No destination then for that here. Oh, wow.
And so then when you close those, it's really hard to reopen them. Now we're having the ice plant issue, which again, the harbor master is working really hard because you can't have a fishery without ice.
Right.
And so he's working incredibly hard with several different factions right now to make the ice plant happen or something with ice happen before the crab season comes.
Wow. And you want to jump into, well, of course you want to jump into all this because you're a commercial fisherman by marriage. So yes.
Well, yeah.
It just seems like so much.
It's my life.
Right. Exactly.
It's every part of my life. It's not just commercial fishing. We recreational fish. We paddleboard. We kayak. We love South Beach, and we like hiking Whalers Cove and enjoying my family. It's a must destination to be at the chart room every time they come.
That's wonderful.
That's cool.
So.
What about the relationship between the commission, the harbor, and the renters and the folks who are squatting out there? Well, not squatting, but they're paying rent and the businesses there.
Yeah, so they all pay rent. They were unable to be relocated when they were trying to.
Are you talking about
overtake
the
it.
RV park residents?
I'm just talking about, it seems to be kind of a sticky situation, just the harbor having to deal with the folks who are all paying, whether it's a business, whether it's England Marine, whether it's Port-au-Prince, whether it's whatever's in the
Fashion
captain's table now.
blacksmith,
Fashion blacksmith, all of that. It always seems to be a problem that kind of comes up, just the relation between the Harbor Commission and the renters in the harbor.
Well, just like any interpersonal relationship, your attitude means everything.
Sure.
And so, again, I hate to keep throwing the last harbor master under the bus, but he brought a very aggressive front to future employees, future tenants, current everyone. And so, again, we've already seen a shift. The current harbor master has been inundated with emails and phone calls from people who had dealt with the previous harbor master, like, hey, can we reopen the store? Hey, is that building still available?
Oh, wow.
Can I reapply? And so he's got a lot on his plate, but it shows that the harbor can quickly change with leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's interesting. Yeah.
The current harbor, Roger Gitlin pointed out in the last newspaper article, I believe it was, about it being a lame duck, and that it is. They canceled the next 2 meetings for lack of a quorum, they state. But so they were supposed to have 3 meetings left. Now there's only 1 to turn over the reins. So really nothing on the harbor commissioner's standpoint is happening until the new ones take effect in December 1st. And so your vote really matters. And many of us know, we grow up in civics and you hear like, oh, your vote matters. But then there's the question, does it really matter? And on a local level, every single vote counts.
Absolutely.
They cut cards to decide an election, right? Like back in when was that, when Jim Ramsey was on the commission, like 15 years ago? That's how they had a tie.
Really?
And they cut a deck of cards.
Wow.
You guys don't know this?
I don't know this.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I wasn't here.
Oh my God! Yeah. It was. Yeah, I forget what year that must have been early 2000s then. But yeah, they actually had a tie, and so everybody gathered around. I believe it was a deck of cards. They just cut, and high card got the seat.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Again, so one vote.
One vote.
Yeah. Decided.
Exactly,
Your vote would have decided. And on this ballot, there are 3 harbor commissioner spots open. And so there are 3 spots to vote. And a lot of people don't know the candidates. So I'm thankful you're giving them another space to talk.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of people that are like, I only know you, so I'm only voting for you. I only know them, so I'm only casting 1 vote. And I would ask that people try to take the time to either read the article with Roger Gitlin, or I think a lot of the candidates have emails or phones. Please reach out, ask a friend, and really cast your vote, because the person I sit next to makes a difference.
Right. And we're talking about potentially an entirely new makeup for the Harbor Commission after this election, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, and it's interesting to me how, the one kind of governing body or like government entity that's having major issues is the only contested race, only contested election on this ballot for Delaware County. And I think that kind of speaks a lot to the public's perception of how the harbor is being run right now.
Yeah, everybody getting involved. It's people want to make a difference. Now, you've run before. You said you ran before, or you thought you did run before. What was that experience like for you? Did you learn anything that's informing this campaign?
What taught me in the last campaign was frustrating. I like to run. Unfortunately, sometimes I talk before I think. I come from a very honest perspective. My friend says I'm sharp. Sorry. And so it's a running joke in my house now is maybe you're being a little too sharp.
Too sharp. Don't cut yourself.
And so in the first race, I learned that politics are politics. You can say whatever you want, and it was called politics. And that was a frustrating reality for me in politics.
Okay.
And I was told I should maybe try to run like that, but that's just not who I am.
Right.
So that's what I learned in the first race.
So that's why you're not slinging mud today, right? Is that why?
No, that's why I want everyone to get out there and learn the vote. And if I was to further say that is a lot of people vote because I know you, and I would really ask that you vote on what's best for the harbor. Mm-hmm. Just because you like someone doesn't mean they're a great candidate to run the harbor.
Right.
So, what are some of the things that you would like to accomplish as a harbor commissioner?
Again, the transparency is what we've been fighting for as a member of the public, every member of the public. There's just been, please be transparent. So following through with that so that if you come in, you can get your records request. And I think the current administration is now making that happen. There's the seawall, and there's a lot of grants that, kudos to the previous harbor master. He onboarded a grant writing company. They've pulled in a lot of grant money. They're currently working on a seawall, among other grants, one for a bathroom.
Citizens dock, rebuild, yeah.
Yeah, and so supporting the harbor master, the CEO, and whatever they need to make sure these grants continue. At this point, that really is what the harbor needs. There's a lot of failing infrastructure that needs to be rehabbed in order for it to continue being a commercial harbor.
Now, one of the things the previous harbor master did was introduce a quote unquote developer matchmaker to potentially bring investors to the harbor. What are your thoughts on the kind of investment you think would fit at the Crescent City Harbor, and what would you like to see?
Oh, wow. That's a big question. I was there during that meeting. I had mixed feelings about it. One is the matchmaker can bring in developers that may have never heard of or been on the radar for this area. It's magical. It's beautiful. It's why we live here. However, loving my tiny community and not wanting tons of outside influence come here, the current developers that are looking at developing the RV park were tourists that came here visiting friends that were like, wow, this is an untouched gem. How can we help turn this back into a beautiful RV park while still fitting this community? So I really like the idea of promoting people who have traveled here or really understand the beauty of it rather than just somebody sitting in an office. Sure. And I don't know how you facilitate that other than having a new harbor master or board members that are reachable and approachable. And as far as the future, there is the part of the grant writer, they created a plan so you can go on the Harbor District website and view the plan that the old harbor master and this grant writer kind of envisioned as the way could possibly be the way of the future. From hotels to what looked like a boardwalk. The hotel side I completely disagree with. It's where the current dredge ponds are, and without the dredge ponds, you have less resources to dredge. And they're currently in the process of trying to empty those. Some of the members of the public may have seen some large equipment over there. It's behind the Ocean World. They're getting ready to empty the dredge ponds.
Oh, that's right. So
that when they get a permit, they can begin dredging where the old-fashioned blacksmith was in the inner boat basin. All essential for the boats to function.
What are your thoughts on offshore wind energy generation and Crescent City Harbor's potential role in that industry?
I 100% oppose offshore wind. Okay. They're being demonstrated on the East Coast currently, the damaging effects of the wind farms. Many of you have probably seen the issues in Nantucket where you've got whales coming aboard. You've also got the fiberglass from one of the turbines being blown to bits, and fiberglass doesn't decompose, so somebody has to go out and pick all that up in order for the beach to become usable. It lets off the large electrical wires that go on the bottom of the floor, create a current, and until I was actually a commercial fisherman and saw how tiny bits of electrical current can completely change how your boat fishes, how the marine mammals respond. If your boat lets off a tiny bit of electrical current, you won't catch fish. Wow. So to know just a vessel moving in the water can change how it fishes. Oh, wow. Imagine something stationary on the bottom of the ocean. It has an electrical field, and once it's functioning perfectly when they install it, but just a nick, a leak, and then how does that affect any sea life near it? And there's plenty of research. I don't have to harp on about that. And so I completely disagree with it just from the safety of and not disturbing this untouched ecosystem. They won't touch redwoods to carve out a road that's completely efficient. Instead, we
Right,
keep
and
rebuilding
needed,
and wasting millions of dollars annually.
Right.
But they're willing to completely destroy parts of the ocean for an inefficient. There are more efficient ways of providing power.
Mm-hmm.
And while Crescent City Harbor would benefit from I have immeasurable funding for that. I think, again, there are grant funds out there that can rehab the harbor and continue to provide for it. I don't see it as a functional way of the future. I don't see it as providing enough power for the state to function as a power grid. There's got to be more energy. They now have safe nuclear power plants. There are other ways not to destroy it. Put it on the top of the mountain where you aren't destroying a whole ecosystem.
Yeah, that may. No, that's interesting. There's a lot of because I'm one of those folks. I'm like, yeah, sure, wind energy, let's do it. And then there's so many unanswered questions. You're absolutely right, and so many things. And then I remember, oh yeah, industry's really good about not answering the questions and just building stuff.
Right.
So yeah, maybe we should answer those questions before. So my understanding is too that our ecosystem here and our fishery right off the coast is pristine, is in really, really good shape, and we're really fortunate. The upwelling and everything that we have happening just offshore here, we're as beautiful and as exceptional as dry land is. It seems like wetland is also that same sort of beauty and exceptionalism here in Del Norte, or near Del Norte. Is that wrong? Am I wrong? Am I just perceiving the health of the ocean off our coast here incorrectly?
I think she protects herself amazingly well.
Nice. That's yeah.
I mean, we have a vessel. We go out there to fish and catch. Everything is incredibly sustainable that we do. And if it wasn't, at least up here, she ensures it's sustainable because everyone's blown inshore.
Yeah.
But if you go, have you been on a vessel?
Not far out, no.
Well, even not far out. If you go, have you seen the harbor porpoise that are out there?
No, no.
Oh.
I've heard about. I haven't seen them.
You see harbor porpoise out there, the plethora of jellyfish. And so have you seen any of the, I don't know how many different species of jellyfish I've seen, but it's...
I don't know if I'd even know that they were different species if I saw jellyfish.
There's like brown looking top ones, big tentacles, and then you have white ones, and then there's the clear ones that have looks like sci-fi with the little colors glowing in them. And,
no, my favorite one was the mama whale and the calf that rolled next to the little boat. We were out rock fishing, and just right there next to the boat, and they just rolled and then swam away. I'm like,
gray whale.
Yeah.
We also have the humpback and orca. My dog once wanted to jump off the boat and play with the orca. And
no, the orca's gonna eat. No.
Yeah.
Orca's gonna eat you.
Fur seals. That was really amazing to see.
I had no idea we have fur seals here too.
Yeah, I've seen them. We have
Wow.
pictures. It's sunfish they eat jellyfish. I decided to Google it when suddenly we were out fishing and there were sunfish everywhere and they were following the boat like puppy dogs trying to steal my bait.
Really?
It was
That's
crazy.
funny.
Yeah. And we had to try to run a mile and they just
kept coming.
followed. Yep. They just kept coming and I was like, hey, and then they would steal the little rockfish as they were coming up. Hey, stop stealing my fish. It's like a sea lion during salmon fishing.
Oh my
Do you feel like as a commercial fisherman and a from whose family, do you feel like you see kind of a side of the harbor of Crescent City in general that many people don't get to see?
I would say many people don't get to see that side of life or the world. I don't even know how to explain how magical the ocean is. The power, the beauty. I really watched like David Attenborough and the overfishing and depleting, and so when I moved out here, that was my knowledge growing up. What the school fed me, and it is simply not true. It is so alive and so powerful. My husband goes out in the rough weather, and I'm barfing at 9 feet. I'm just like,
That's it for me. Thanks.
Yeah. You go crabbing off the mouth of the Klamath, and every time, but the current flowing this way, and the current flow, every time, and so you get this whole class of mostly men and families out there fishing the rough weather. You know, they're so in love. It's the lifestyle. It's not just I'm going out there to be a slayer. It's really about harvesting for your family, providing food for your community that you know is healthy and sustainable. And I don't even know how to describe it. It's magical. And being on the vessel, sharing it with your family, teaching your children, and my husband, God love him, he loves teaching other people. So whenever he has spare time during herring fishing, hey, invite all your friends onto the boat. Let's teach them how to put a hook on, or just the experience of catching a little herring and that pole on the pole and what to look for. To, I mean, it's amazing how many people he's taken out and taught.
That's wild.
He just wants to share the love.
So you've done, it sounds like also you're very much about kind of that next generation of, Del Norte, because I know that you've done an kids entrepreneurial festival or program where. Can you tell a little bit about that? Because I feel like I'm not doing it justice. So.
It's the Acton Children's Business Fair.
That's right.
I've had 3 annual ones. I held a 4th one. Realized 2 in a year was too much for me to take on.
Sure.
It's the Acton Academy first started it 22 years ago. They had young children at the time, fell in love with it, and they were small business owners as well. And so they just kind of gravitated their kids and community into it and created a web page and the basic platforms for how to host one, and provided that. So it's now an international program, and anyone in any community can sign up to do it.
Wow. And
and they kind of give you the tools to guide you, but you have to get all the fundraising and do all the legwork on ground. And I had young kids and other families and that said, yeah, we'll do it. And so our first fair we had 11, our second fair we had 13, and this last one we had 24 entrepreneurs.
Wow.
And
that's great.
It's challenging. I don't like asking people for help or money, so it's probably the hardest part of it for me is getting the fundraising component to do it. But all of it's worth it, watching how much the kids learn from it and how much they love doing it. They come up and say thank you, and their parents are like, they learned this, this, and this, but they over half of the ones that come each time are repeat. So the small core group just keeps growing, and they can change their project, they can change their craft or whatever, their creation every time. So they learn what it's like to be a small business owner before the real liability of it happens.
That's really cool.
You're tuned to KFUG Community Radio. It is 11:38. Paul Kritz with you, along with Jessica St. Andrews, not of the Wild Rivers Outpost anymore, of Redwood Voice Community News. And we're speaking with Annie Nehmer, who is running for Harbor Commission. I've got too many notes going on. Let's consolidate here. And we should think about wrapping it up. We are working our way toward the top of the hour, and Redwood Voice Community News, which happens at that time.
Great. Well, is there anything that you would like to let the community know? Anything that we may not have touched on? Anything at all?
We've touched on way more than I anticipated. I just hope the community gets out there and votes. Every vote counts. Please take the time to consider your votes. I ask that you vote for people who are working for the harbor and for our community, and not just the person you like.
Right on.
Great. Thank you.
Annie, thank you very much. This interview was recorded. We will post it online so you can share it or tell people not to listen to it or whatever you want to do when it's done, but it'll be up there so people can listen at their leisure and hear your vision for the Crescent City Harbor.